Okay guys, let's take a look at the concept of services. When we are designing our application, we can simplify the logic by not directly passing information from the controller to the model, but using a service in between. In this way, we can separate further the logic and decouple the controller and the model, while in the controller we can have all of our business logic, and inside of the service we can have certain model logic. In this example, we have just one schema inside of our model, and we can import this schema. And then we can create a model from this schema inside of our service. We will use this model in order, for example, here to get all the users. We can also combine different models, and the result from the service will be sent to the controller. So the controller passes certain logic to the service, processes the returned result from the service, and composes a JSON response. What's helpful is that inside of the controller, we are abstracting our logic. For example, here we just want to get our users based on a certain parameter, and then the service will take care of passing those parameters to the model and returning a result. Let's see now this in action. So we start from the model. We are just exporting one schema as before, and we have our new service inside of the directory services. Inside of our services, we are importing the schema from our model, and we are creating one user model. And then inside of the find user function, which this service provides, we are executing commands on the model, such as find. Here we are passing a query, so we are using this query to find a certain user, and then we are processing the result and we are returning result if the query returns a result. Now, how to use this service inside of our controller? Before, we had to compose the model and then directly execute certain things on the model. We just need to use the service, and we pass the parameter. For example, here username, we get something from the request, and we're passing this as a filter to our service, and it will execute and will give us a result. And then we're returning certain information to the user as a JSON response. By convention, you can use the same names inside of the service as inside of the controller. So we have here inside of the controller find user, and inside of the service, we use the same method. And once again, the benefit is that we can use multiple services inside of our controller, and thus avoiding repeated writing of code. Now let's see the concept of error handling inside of Node.js. Usually when we are dealing with databases, we might experience errors in our business or database logic, and this can block the Node.js loop, so we cannot send proper messages to the users. In order to prevent such situations, we can create a catch-all error handler. So no matter what kind of error we are experiencing inside of our controllers or services, the error handler will send a normal JSON response to the user, and the loop will not be interrupted. So in order to have this handler, we need to register it as a middleware, so inside of our main running application server.js file. And then actually the logic is that the service, whenever we are having no result from a certain query, it throws a new error, and this error is being called by the controller and passed to the error handler. We're using the next function. And since the error handler is placed below all of our routes and middlewares, it will process this next callback. It will grab the message and compose the user-friendly error message. Let's see this in action. So this is our error handler. As you can see, it accepts a parameter error, and it composes JSON response where we are sending error to true and the custom message, or if there is no message, we are defaulting to server error. This error handler is registered here on line 10 with app use error handler. It's below all the other middlewares and routes, so it can be the final error processing function. Then inside of the service, we see that whenever we are finding users and there is nothing in our results, so we have 0 length of the results, we are throwing an error, and it can be any kind. And here inside of the controller, while we are invoking the service, we are catching the error and we are passing via next the error with another message. Of course, we can process here the error further, and it will be passed to our error handler. It will catch the error and display it to the user. We can try executing with non-existent user this query. And if we send a request with this non-existent user, we see that we have status of 400 bad request, and this is our response, error true and message user is not found. And that's basically what we are doing here. We are sending status 400 and message user is not found inside of our controller. If we have an existing in the database user, it's processed normally. We have status of 200 with OK, and message user was found.